G'day, I'm Mark Hoth and welcome to Swift Almanac. This is just a update on the channel members app. There was a stupid bug which was returning my information in settings rather than your information in the settings. So you'd be looking at my picture and email address instead of your own. That's been fixed. Call me egocentric. Now you might recall that the channel app also had a view controller for messaging, which was going to allow us for you to communicate with me. Now we're going to build that, and we're going to use some public key encryption. We're going to be saving keys and encrypting data, and we'll show you how all of that works over the next few lessons. All those messages are going to be stored in the Firebase database, so we'll be reading and writing to Firebase and showing how to do live updates and the like. So the big announcement for this tutorial is we have a Slack channel. So Slack is essentially IRC for the 20 teens. We have a channel which is swift-almanac.slack.com. You can join up. There's a public channel where everyone can chat, and then if you have subscribed to the members app or are subscribing through, what's it called? Patreon, which is $2 a month, then you can also get access to the Hash members channel, and then you'll have personal contact with me. And if you've got any questions, I will do my very best to help you out. Sponsoring me is a great thing. It's only $2 a month, and you get access to our source code as well as answers from myself to any questions you may have. Finally, this tutorial is on something that's completely different, but seeing as I was working on the members app, I decided I'd put this all in because it's a series that I'm going to be doing later in the year, and that's on analytics. Now, if you're looking to become a startup or working for a startup, analytics is something that you really want to implement, and something that is never really considered by developers. Now there's two reasons why you want to implement it. The first one is it'll get people off your back, and the second thing is that investors want to get a hold of the information that's in analytics. So I'm going to show you how to install these pods and modules, and we'll have a brief discussion on what they're all for. Anyway, let's have a look at our members app and see where we are at. Okay, so here we are in our members app, and I've updated all the pod files for any recent changes, and I made this change in GitHub. So the get current user is now making an Alamo Fire request, and it's just getting the current user, and it's just keeping the same parameters, the name, email, and the avatar URL. So now when you run the app, if you download the latest version 1.0.1, which should be available on the App Store pretty soon, because I uploaded it this morning, and it's now 7 p.m. Apple's turning over App Store things in about 24 hours at the moment. It's very good. So you'll get the latest version of the app. It's members for Swift Almanac in the App Store. If you haven't already downloaded it, you should. Anyway, going back to App Delegate, before I do that, one thing I want to do is I've changed the format of the recordings on the channel, and one of the things that I'm doing, because I've only just found out that you can do it, is here in the description I can put where the tutorial starts. So and I can put more channels and things like that, so that if you click on if you go into the description and you click on the time here, it'll fast forward immediately or jump to the part in the YouTube. So if I've got a long YouTube like that read write Firebase one, which goes for over an hour, I'm going to go back and put these time things in so you can jump to the relative places in the video, so you can see how it's all working. So just be aware of that, and yeah, hopefully make your life a little bit easier. And it'll mean that I can make some longer tutorials rather than I've been trying to keep them as short as possible, that's all. Okay, so basically this tutorial is about installing analytics, I suppose. And the three things that we're going to look at is we're going to look at Fabric and Crashlytics, and we're going to look at Mixpanel, and we're going to look at Google Analytics. Now, I'm basically just going to give you an overview of how to install these, but basically what these allow you to do is, just like if you have a website and you have Google Analytics, it records how many people log in and which view controllers they're going to, which buttons they're clicking on, and things like that. So it gives you information about your client base. Now, as a developer, you probably couldn't give a damn, right? But the marketing people and the investors, they want to know, how many users you've got, and what they're doing and what they're using and what they love and all the rest of it, because they want to promote those features and get more people using your app. And the good thing about this is, normally if you don't have these kind of functions, then you have marketing people or your publicity people coming up to you going, oh, can you tell me how many subscribers you've got, and how many people have logged in this month, and how many people are current, we've got 10,000 users, but how many people actually using the app, this kind of thing. And you don't want to have to sit there and waste your time running reports and writing code into databases and exporting data and all the rest of it. The marketing people just want to get that information so they can do their job. And what these analytical components do is they basically suck that data out live from the app as it's being used. They record it in a separate database, and that allows your marketing people to just go off and do their own thing without having to harass you. So it's always really good to have these features installed. Now the other product, of course, Fabric and Crashlytics, that's really to do with debugging your code, and you can set it up so that you get crash reports, and you can find out which which view, which function is where crashes have occurred. Of course, we write really good code which does not crash, but in any event, it's worth having, particularly if you're sending stuff to test flight for testing, and it's really simple to implement. This is one of the great things about this stuff is that it's got very small footprint, and it's really easy for you to implement, and so it doesn't take up much of your time at all. So let's have a look at it. They're all installed through pod files. I'll pull up a terminal. Whoops, there we go. So here's our pod file. Let's have a look. So it's just normally what we had before. We just had our Almanac Fire, our Firebase, and our Polo. And what I've added is the pod for Fabric, and then Fabric's got a component called Crashlytics. They also have another component called Answers, which you might want to look at and install, but I haven't put it in currently. And then there's another company called Mixpanel, and Mixpanel has a pod the pod called Mixpanel without the # Swift is for Objective-C, and then they have this Mixpanel - Swift for Swift projects like ours. And then finally we have Google Analytics, right? And of course everyone who's ever had a website knows all about Google Analytics, and essentially it does the exact same thing, except it's collecting data out of your app. And of course the beauty of this is that like while we're iPhone developers, all of these products work across multiple platforms, and so you can collect all of your user information in location. So basically you type in pod and these pod names, we close this out, didn't save anything, you type pod install and it will install those pods, bang, there they are, and we're looking good there. And then to get them running is pretty straightforward. Fabric is a little bit tricky. With Fabric, you need to go to their website and you need to get an API key. So you should log into Fabric, and then they have this thing where you have to go to the build phases, and you click the plus button here and create a new run script phase. We'll just do a quick one here. Comes up with run script, and then says type a script or whatever. On the Fabric website, it will have a link that'll have this, and it will have your key. I'll have to black out that key so you can't see it. Have your key, you type in the key there, and you are away. We get rid of that one because we don't need it. Okay, so that's pretty much installing Fabric. It's got to be the last thing, right? Now while I'm here, I just see I've got this increment build function. Oh, I'll come back to that for the end, okay? Don't let me forget. Okay, so we've done Fabric, and if we look at, what was the other one we're looking at? And then you just type in fabric.with an array, crashanalytics.self, import Fabric, import Crashanalytics, and that's basically how you get it in. That is in fact how you get it installed. So Fabric is to do with sort of more developer type functions, what function you're in, or what method you're in, and getting crash reporting, where it's crashing, why it's crashing, that kind of thing. Okay, so Mixpanel gives you in-depth sort of tracking of what your customers are doing. So this is great. It allows you to figure out if people are going to the wrong way, if they're logging in, not going to the right windows that you want them to, if they're finding sort of strange ways to navigate through your app rather than the way that you think is the best way. And again, it's quite simple to implement. We've added the pod file. You type import Mixpanel, and then you've got Mixpanel.initialize token, and then your Mixpanel token, which you will get from the mixpanel.com website once you've signed in. Now, Fabric and Mixpanel are both free for tiny apps like us, tiny developers like us, and then they're, you know, I don't know, $50 to $100 a month when you need more than, I don't know, I think Mixpanel something like, I don't know, 2.5 million records or something a month or something. It's like a huge figure. Anyway, basically they're free for us to tinker around with, so you should implement them, particularly if you are looking to get an investor, because if people start saying to you, well, you know, how many customers do you have, and what functions do they use in your app, and what do they really like, and things like that, you can come around and go, well, here's our reports, and this is what we know, and this is what investors think. God, you guys, you got your shit together. I'm going to give you some money, right? If you start going, we're not really sure, well, who's going to partake with a couple $1 million if you're not sure, right? So Mixpanel, good product, right? Now, of course, everyone has heard of Google Analytics. Google is $1 billion company. Is it the largest company in the world now? I don't know. And it's one of the top 3, right? It's huge, right? Now you would think that a company that big and, you know, offering a product to Apple, another top 3 big company, would have their crap together and be able to have instructions on their website on how to install the latest version of their product, but Google does not. So this is what you need to do to get Google up and running. Now, firstly, you need to get a bridging header because they still haven't converted the whole thing to Swift. Now, if you're not sure how to do a bridging header, this is it quickly, you just go File, New File, you go to Headers, you go Next, you save that header. Now you want to call it the name of your app dash bridging dash header dot. You don't need to put the .h here, it'll supply that for you automatically. Okay, so you create the bridging header, and once you've done that, you need to tell the compiler that it exists. So if you go to your builds, and I've got to figure out where it is. I think it's in build phase. No, it's not. It's in build settings. There's something about code generation. Maybe I should just type bridging header. It's not one of those. Okay, here it is. Under Swift Compiler General, we've got Objective-C bridging header. Now, what you need to do is you need to put that in, and you can see mine is in the members folder. So you're going to put the folder name and then where the bridging header is. You need to do this manually, right? And you can see there's for debug and for release. So if you put in the top one, it fills it in for the bottom two. Now, if you cannot find this Objective-C bridging header, what you need to do is you need to create a new Swift file. So you just go File, New, File, Swift file, temp. That'll tell the compiler that you're building a Swift file. It'll recognize that there's a header file in here, and it'll go, oh, we need to put in place that bridging header feature. And so then you go back into your targets, and this Objective-C bridging header will be there, and this will be blank. Okay, so then you can fill in that information. Okay, so now that we've actually got the bridging header and Xcode knows where it is and that it's going to actually compile it, let's have a look at what it contains. These four import statements. So hash import Google Analytics / gai.h, GI dictionary builder.h, GIA fields.h, and GAI e-commerce fields.h. So put all those in, and they'll get compiled with the when you build the product. And then we go back to our app delegate, and you've gone to analytics.google.com and you've signed up, and you've got a Google Analytics ID, which usually looks something like UA blah 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 1 or something like, I don't know, it looks something like that. And I've got mine saved as a constant. It'll be a string. Okay, so you need to call this this singleton, set up your tracking ID, and then you have this track uncalled exception set to true, and then whether or not you want the logging level to be just regular or verbose. So I have a boolean in my constants. Let's have a look. Under models. So I have a boolean here, kProduction, which is false, and there you can see my Google Analytics ID, UA, that's what it looks like. So this kProduction constant, I've got a fix here that says set to true for release. So when I am in non-production mode, I want to get verbose logging of Google Analytics so I can get all the information possible. So if I am sending something to test flight, then when all my testing users are using it, I'm getting crap loads of information that I can sift through to see what's going on. And when I've sent it out to production, then I can I'm only getting the information that I need as a summary rather than in depth. Okay, so look, that's quickly how to install all those things. Now, bonus for today: if you are sending stuff to the App Store, let's have a quick look. I should just type in iTunes Connect, shouldn't I? Anyway. Okay, oh look, I've got to pay my development membership. If you are sending stuff to the App Store, then still waiting for review, okay, it'll be coming out soon. Then what you will know, okay, somewhere, is you need to increment this this build number, okay, and otherwise the App Store just thinks it's the same app. It doesn't look at the binaries and go, hey, this is different. You need to tell it that this is this version number is incremented, you see. And quite often, unless you've got some pain not to have automatic incrementation of this build number. So if we have a look at our info P list, then we've got here the bundle versions. There's a version number 1.0.1, and then we have this other bundle version, which is the sort of the build version, which we want to increment automatically every time. Now there are quite a few scripts and things like that on the internet, and quite a few of them do not work. So so what I've done is I've got one that works, and what you do is you go back to members and your target, and then you go to the build phases, and again we've got this script that we've got here, increment build. Again, to get one you just go plus and new run script phase, puts it at the bottom. We'll get rid of that one for now. If we open up our increment build, this is what you need to copy and paste so that you have this feature, and you'll see here that the path has to be the path where your info P list is. Some people in the ones on the internet, they've got, you know, variables and all that kind of stuff, but look, just hard code your path. That's all I did, right? It works. If it doesn't work, then you've got the path wrong. Basically, just wherever you put that, just Fabric has to be the last thing in your list of build phases. So so essentially, we were on build 18, and we've made it. I think, did we make some changes? I did. So if we do a run now, oh, we haven't chosen a device, whatever. Okay, so if we run right now, it does some compiling. We don't really want to see the simulator. Launching away. And you can see there now, like we've finished building. So the bundle version has now gone from 18 to 19. And basically, every time you build that, the bundle version is going to increment, and that means that whenever you send it to the App Store, this number will always have been incremented, and you won't have to go through the long process of re-archiving and uploading, and you know that can take hours, and just to find out that your bundle version hasn't been incremented. So that's a shortcut that you can use. I hope all of those things are useful and that you can implement them, and in lessons to come I'll show you how to use each of those, Fabric, Mixpanel and Google Analytics, and the benefits you can get out of them. Really simple to implement. Okay. Okay, so we've covered off how to install some analytics programs in our app. That's Fabric and Crashlytics, which is something that we'll be using, and products like Mixpanel and Google Analytics, which is something that our marketing and investors will want to have access to. In addition, we've created a little script for auto building so that we don't waste a lot of time trying to upload stuff to the App Store needlessly. So now is the time to click like for this video, and if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, there's more great content coming real soon. Join me on Slack at swift-almanac.slack.com, and if you haven't already, head to the App Store and download the Members for Swift Almanac app. And if you want access to the source code, then become a subscriber or patron, and that's $2 a month, so it's pretty good value. I've got a quick tutorial on job hunting and sort of, I don't know, take-home assignments that they can give you, and the next tutorial after that will be adding public key encryption and secure communications to our members app, which is going to be really exciting. Anyway, we'll see you soon.